continue on our journey through the use of the Tonfa, and now we're going to work on the use of Tsuki and Uchi. Now, Tsuki means to thrust. It means moving your particular given weapon in a linear fashion. Now again, as we mentioned before, if you have studied in the art of Nindo Ryu or Temido or any of the other disciplines that have striking maneuvers within it, you will be familiar with some of the basic strikes and then compound those actions into the extension of your body, the Tonfa. Again, for those individuals coming from a Kenpo or Karate or a Temi background, you will be familiar with many of the actions we'll go over. Again, from an empty hand action, if you utilize Seiken, four fist, Tate-ken, Ura-ken, Riken, Shuto, Tetsui or Hansui, Haito, or the reverse, Kensui, Tetsui or Hansui. If you're familiar with many of these actions, then of course when we add the Tonfa in, it's very easy to understand how to compound these various actions. That being said, let's grab our Tonfa. And again, when we talk about Seiken, people go, well, that alignment looks a little strange. I mean, I can get some power out of it because of the rotational torque. If I bring my hand back to a full chamber position with the Tonfa actually resting on my rib cage, some people are concerned that the force of blow will hit my flesh and drive the weapon into my floating ribs. Others prefer the tate or vertical position. Seiken. Now again, we deal with three gates: upper, jodan, middle, chudan, and lower, gedan. So if I do chudan, Seiken Uchi, or Tsuki I should say. Tsuki will be a thrusting motion, our thrusting motion. Seiken Tsuki. Tate Tsuki. Riken Tsuki. Now, from those basic positions, we then would go on to Uchi, or strikes, which would move in a circular fashion. So, Shuto, Uchi. Shuto, Uchi. Haito, Uchi. Haito, Uchi. So as we can see, as we progress on through these various actions, we can easily see the use of the Uchi, or strike. Now, again, from there, I'm going to back up a little bit. We're going to go into as well the third aspect, which is also known as Furi. And Uchi would work in a circular path. So if we want to extend our action, we want to do Jodan, Yoko, Uchi, which is a high side strike. Circular action, striking in. Circular action, striking in. I can bring it to the outside as well, from the moving outward. Coming in, moving outward as well. Moving inward. Moving outward. By the same token, I can also do Jodan Shomenuchi, which cross-references to some of our swordsmanship actions and other Kobujutsu arts such as Bojutsu. Shomenuchi. Shomenuchi. I can also let it circle and come back. Weapon up. Shomenuchi. Circle it down and back. Or Shomenuchi. And bring the weapon back to my previous position. We can also use Gyaku. Underhand action. Twirling back in. Gyaku Uchi. Twirling back in. Or Gyaku Uchi. Flip back. Gyaku Uchi. Flip back. In relationship to Uchi, we also have Happo Uchi. Now when you notice, I'm actually really doing very little in relationship to a circling action with my tonfa for that particular movement. I just extend the weapon out, keeping the weapon in that position. I bend my elbow, strike with the weapon. I bend my wrist, strike back, and then flip back. So when you look at it, people think, oh, there's a lot of twirling and spinning with this. But in reality, there's very little. It's all in wrist and elbow action. Striking here, bend the elbow, bend the wrist, flip back. Position, Uchi. Strike, circle the elbow, circle the wrist, flip back. Again, we also have Yoko Uchi, Kuchuda. You can also come outward with it. When I come outward, I bring hand across, sweeping out. Again, bring the weapon in across the waist. I can sweep in all the way in. I can rebound it off my hip and bring it back inward to outward as well. If we can do it from the conventional extended position, we can turn our wrist over and invert, utilizing a full furi, or 360 spin. That's the difference between a uchi and a furi. A furi is a full 360-degree spin, or a full turning or twirling action. Doing it like so would be considered not only an uchi, but if I return it back along the line, it could also be considered a furi, or spin. But normally a spin would be a 360-degree circle added into an action. Shomenuchi, Furi. So as I twirl, again from a side view, the twirling action on different planes, when combined, can make for quite an impressive display. That's the key. Of course, extended as well. Now again from here, underneath, cross, underhand. All these motions can be utilized in the actions of uchi, as well as Tsuki. And again, as we look through other actions, we're going to see with some of the specialized actions. Mawashi uchi, roundhouse punch, tate mawashi uchi. Normally we do this more on a chudan action and jodan. If we're going to go to jodan, we go to seiken. And utilize, again, the hard pommel. Or, in this case, and let's briefly review some of the nomenclature of the tonfa. The top is, again, for those of you who study swordsmanship, suka kashira. Now, if we look at Japanese swords, the pommel of a katana is called the kashira. The length or handle is called the suka. Sometimes erroneously called the shaku. Shaku is actually a reference of measurement in the Japanese martial arts and Japanese lifestyle in general. It's a traditional measurement of length. Suka is actually the more correct term to utilize for the handle. So this is the suka. This is the suka gashira. Now, the bottom section is known as the monouchi. Each particular section is known as the atama. You would say, well, wouldn't it be kisaki? Well, kisaki would be a Japanese term that referred to a sword point. But we use the term atama to refer to the different end sections of the tonfa. In this case, the front section from the contracted position is known as the zen atama. The rear section is, of course, ushiro, or rear pommel. Now, when we look at this, the top length of the tonfa here is known as the shomen. When we look, we have the soko, and then the bottom section is known as the sokumen. So, soko, sokumen. Monouchi is the overall length. And these are in direct reference to the striking surfaces that we would use of the tonfa. And of course, the top inside section is the shomen. Now, as we go through our different thrusting actions, and you have your own particular styles of martial arts where you will compound and utilize the tonfa in your particular ruse, then obviously there will be certain terminology that you will use and compound those natural actions with the natural weapons of your body with this extension of the body, the tonfa. All that being said, that's a basic introduction into the use of Tsuki, thrusting actions, Uchi, striking actions, and of course, Furi, or spinning motions. We'll be